Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tom Sydney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Site Club and the Tom Numbers Show. And I've got some wonderful guests and friends here in Zoom with me today. So I've got Mr. JETSON White 148. I've got Rachel WriteSideBlonde 164, and I've got MrsHandyRU. And Handy, I always say to Kathy, Mrs. HandyRU, I've always been saying to her, you're a Space Force. And she's like, yeah, I'm Space Force. So you're a Space Force. Then I worked out HandyRU is Space Force 91. So I was correct. I was correct. So
wow.
don't believe all the character. Don't believe all the kind of nutty professor of Space Force. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go into it. So today we're a couple of days on from President Trump's speech at Mar-a-Lago. We did a show just the other day that Juan was down at Mar-a-Lago. I did have it on YouTube. I moved it to Rumble now. So go to my Rumble channel if you want to see that, which is Site Club. But so we watched that, and there were many things that came out, and there was something you pointed out, JETSON, and I looked at it again last night, and you were exactly correct. So let's go into it. Maybe we'll start with, well, there might be some points you wanted to raise, but maybe we'll start with this one. You talked about, well, there was one part that I saw that President Trump basically did a Trumpism, and he referred to not starting a war, but then he basically looked like he was kind of talking about it might look in a few months we might have a war, but it won't be a war, it won't happen. But then you said something kind of almost bigger, and he started talking about in his administration he was doing such and such for decades and decades, and that was around the 15-minute mark. When you watch it on President Trump's Rumble, there's about 3 or 4 minutes of kind of just the intro, and then it opens up the video feed starts. It's around between 15 and probably 15 minutes 30. He says that, so you can look at that, people viewing it. But I was blown away when you mentioned that, JETSON, and I looked at it again. So what do you think that is all about? Did you catch that part, Rachel?
I'm not quite sure which one you're talking about, but I did watch it.
Let me
so
share.
I'll let you know what JETSON's going to say.
I've got it written down. Hold on, guys. Big announcement. Let's see.
That's the Trump train.
He said this isn't verbatim, but he said, for decades and decades while I was in office, there was no war. He says, while I was in office for decades and decades. And we're like,
what?
Well, see, we had me and some friends had some friends and I had a Zoom meeting yesterday about our initial impressions of the announcement, the big announcement. And that came up, you know, as everyone was tossing in their ideas about the speech. And we didn't come up with anything yet. These are just initial impressions. So this decades and decades is a real enigmatic thing that's going to cause people to dig, but I don't even know where to start on that.
In decades?
Other than some kind of time travel thing, but it doesn't fit in with anything I've been given about how they're using Trump for time travel. Doesn't make any sense, really.
Interesting.
He's done things like that before. I remember one of his speeches, I don't know, probably year and a half ago. He talked about hundreds and hundreds of countries. I think he went into maybe the thousands. And I was like, what does he mean by that? Does he mean all the states and smaller states and regions that countries are made up of? Are they all going to go individual, or was he talking about other countries beyond maybe an ice wall, you know, that we don't know about? And I was like, but he said it. So it was very much like what he did the other day with decades and decades of him being president and not causing any wars. And it's like, he told everybody. He said, like, so what was that about? What is that about? Answers on a postcard. Answers in the comments below. What have you got, Kathy?
Decades and decades is immortal in Jewish gematria anyway.
What's it in normal?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
So it's 101?
No, 101, simple. Yeah.
Yeah, so 101 is immortal. Yeah, system, Melchizedek. Decades and decades. Huh. I watched it with close anticipation like everyone else. And I was, as with all of this, we're always surprised at what we get, because it's never quite as we envisage, because we've all got our own perspective and we don't know, and it keeps everyone on the toes, and it's just evolving. But I did get this sense of when he was talking about it starts now. I was like, have we gone through another kind of gate, another portal where things actually do start?
It
Like-
equals portals too.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 101 equals portals. Okay,
Yeah, it
decades and
said,
decades. That's interesting. So I wonder,
101.
it felt like that afterwards. I was like, have we gone through some kind of portal? And then he talked about how he basically described how some people that are working with him will be kind of test to the brink, and there's only a select few that will appreciate that and go through that. And I was like, okay, so it could be that we're just going to get kind of tossed and turned and flipped over, and just more and more stuff will get revealed, and maybe none of us can really see clearly what it is just yet, you know. But it did feel like maybe a portal, and that's interesting that decades and decades 101 is portal, immortal.
It's portals.
Portals with an S,
Plural, yeah.
portal.
good. Well, that goes along with what we were talking about before we started recording. What's going on right now on the television there, here where I live. There is the new members of the House of Representatives are starting an investigation against Hunter
Wow.
and his infamous laptops. And so that is what Trump's quote was the comeback of America starts right now.
Yeah.
So maybe that was heralding of we're going to start seeing some justice right in front of our eyes.
Wow. So this is interesting you said that, Jetson, because I spoke to Juan last night.
Oh yeah.
Not for long. And it was a bit of a bitty call. I couldn't hear him that way. I was on a plane. But he did say two things that stood out to me, and I did the numbers on this. I said, so what did you think of it, basically? He said, well, it's basically kind of what we needed. And he said, a line in the sand. So a line in the sand is 135, which is protection. It's Terminator 2, stock exchange, but it's John Trump, is Ivana Trump. And then another thing he said just a few seconds later, or a minute later, but it stood out to me. So you get this, Rachel, when you hear the numbers, when you get the way people say to me, well, how'd you get the working out? How do you know what all these numbers mean? And they are usually approaching it backwards. They're trying to work out numbers and then get meanings. I do it in complete reverse. So a feeling attached to a number or a phrase, a word or a phrase or an impulse or a feeling will come in. Someone might say something, and that's the thing that hits me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then I work that out. And so this is what the two things that stood out to me with what Juan said. And he also said rarefied air. So he's talking about the people at Mar-a-Lago. Rarefied air is 98, which is mission, which is independence. But I added them together. Also, rarefied is 70, which is secret, and air is 28, which is junior or JR. So secret JR. But anyway, and also you got John Trump as well. But then I added those together. So a line in the sand, 135, plus rarefied air, 98, which is mission independence. Adding together is 233, which is John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Follow the White Rabbit, The 10 Days of Darkness. But it's also the Hunter Biden laptop, 233. Wow. And so now that's the thing that's the only thing I recorded at what Juan said to me in those couple of minutes, because I couldn't.
Wow,
that's why.
And now you've just said today, guess what, folks, this has happened. But that's the value I came up with, 233. And 233 is the Hunter Biden laptop. So you can see it there, 233.
You're on that one.
So it's there. So I didn't write Hunter Biden laptop, but I know that's what that is. So the Hunter Biden laptop is 233. And now the very next day, well, 2 days later, we're onto it, you know.
Yeah.
After he confirmed, has it even been announced in the press that they've got the house? He announced it, but has it been confirmed in the house? I mean, publicly in the news.
What I'm saying is that the mainstream media news in there on this lady's TV where I live here is showing the representatives lined up, you know, kind of like the Democrats normally do for a press conference, and they've got, you know, they're different people who are on their committees or whatever, and they're sitting there and they're saying that, you know, we feel like there's enough here on these laptops to start an investigation, and
right.
I mean, it's literally like a press conference held right there in DC. So
right.
it's
on.
definitely, it's not just some telegraph, it's not just some TG post, you know, saying, oh, well, this happened. It's right there on the TV right now, right before this, we called this call.
Right now.
Right
White
now.
House. Get some white. right now. Yeah. Wow. Let's bring it on. That's amazing. So, has anyone else felt it? Did anyone else feel that a portal something? What were your thoughts about the speech, Rachel? You saw it and you'd have seen and noticed things. What did you think about it?
I thought his choice of words was really interesting. I caught, like, there were at least 3 that really stood out to me. And, you know, saying Nancy Pelosi's been fired. I thought that was an interesting choice of words. And then when he actually announced, you know, I'm going to be running for the presidency, and then he just stopped talking. He didn't say in 2024. And it was just silent for a good 10, 15 seconds.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
he never said that, which was interesting because a lot of people were hoping he wasn't going to announce his presidency, because then he would have to concede to the previous election if he did that. So I think
so
that was,
he's not conceded. He's just continuing saying, I'm going to.
yes, I think that was like his clever way of not conceding, but also announcing that he's running. So I thought that was really interesting too. There were a lot of little tidbits in there when you're like us and we're like listening for certain things, you know.
That's interesting.
One of the outcomes of our meeting about the speech, I got this from Colin, one of the people who was involved with that. He said, announcing a run for 2024, everyone was thinking it meant that Trump conceded, but if 2020 wasn't legit, it's not even possible for him to concede.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that was a different kind of angle to look at it too.
Yeah. Also, so this is something we're doing a show tomorrow with Janine MrsHandyRU. We're going to do the cards with Kathy, Rachel, and I, and I'm going to ask her this when we see her. But so again, we're just exploring and examining possibilities, you know, because let's face it, the timelines are, and even how do we know what timeline is? But all of this that we're doing is constantly moving and changing and flux, and it's getting more and more revealed, and it's more and more intriguing. So I was looking at POTUS, and I've always said that I think there's at least 2 Donald Trumps, and Janina said, well, we did a show ages ago, and she seemed to think there were 3 or 4. We've done one recently, and she's saying that there's at least 3. And I was looking at him carefully, and I had a thought. I spoke to Jack Kidd about this way on, really early in 2020. And I've wondered, I know you differ on this, Jetson, but it's okay. We differ on feeling and thought. I've wondered if sometimes JFK, original JFK, may be POTUS and may play President Trump. So I'm just going to let this possibility marinate and just see what we think. But I was looking at him the other day, and I was like, is that POTUS? Is that Kennedy? And the one thing I've noticed with it is you look at the eyes. Do you want to pull up your picture, Kathy?
This one?
Yes, please. So JFK, if you look at his eyes, they slightly separate. Can you see that? They slightly separate. So when we were watching Donald, President Trump, POTUS, there at Mar-a-Lago, his eyes also slightly separate.
When you say separate, what do you mean? I'm sorry.
Here, this, there. Look. So they're not. So there's a gap. So they're just very slightly separate. Does that make sense? Does that make sense,
No,
viewers? That's what I mean. That's what I mean by that. And so, and a lot of people's eyes do that. But I've noticed it with JFK's, and I've also noticed it with one of the POTUS's, and I noticed the one that was at Mar-a-Lago. Now, it could be completely off the wall, and I know one would say, oh, that's just, you know, woo-woo. But I'm wondering if perhaps, because this statement about being POTUS, being in charge for decades and decades, who could have been in charge for decades and decades? That could be JFK. How that all works and puts together, I don't know. But if you put in things like time travel, Space Force, witness protection, timelines, everything, then maybe there's a possibility of that. But I was looking distinctly at his eyes, trying to figure out which one he was. And it made me think of this one I've seen before.
Sorry. It's the wind.
Okay, see the wind. Wind is Donald. Wind is just blue. Wind is America, 50. Eileen, Paul, my cousin.
Oh my gosh.
Wind, all of those things. But anyway, I'm just going to put that out and just, I can't prove anything on that, but I'm just, these are my observations. I'm like, decades and decades, who could have been POTUS for decades and decades? There's a chance it could be the JFK. We'll see, we'll see. And I know everything around 63 was hugely visceral and
Oh yeah.
but I don't think that is exactly what we saw. And I know Jetson feels differently on it. And that's okay, because we're here to just look at stuff. But anyway, the decades thing and the eyes and POTUS and masks, we know masks are real, and Juan has talked about that. Anyway, I don't even know where to go with that, but I'll just put that out. So
All right, good.
Yeah, I think at least for that announcement video from Mar-a-Lago, there's a really good chance it was Lady Diana or Jacqueline Kennedy. And I know that's hard to believe because, you know, that would take a lot to make one of those folks look like President Trump, but I think it's happened. And it's from Gematria. I mean, it's not from looking at it's not at all from looking, it's just from coding that I'm getting this. And it's been going on for a while. So it's not anything just from that day. It's been going on and on. And I noticed that he had, his jacket was unbuttoned. And that's just unusual. He always has his jacket buttoned unless he's sitting down.
yeah, he
So-
unbuttoned it just as he started the
Yeah,
speech. Yeah.
So I do these things literally. I put in unbuttoned jacket. And it's urgent message to you. It's 186. The world's a stage. Tiffany blue dress. And then let's see. I can't find what it was. Anyway, there was a lot more than that. Like divine feminine came up from President Trump's speech. Lots of things about women. Lots and lots of things about women. More than even usual.
Now, did you guys hear Roseanne Barr say that she thought that Donald Trump was the first female president?
Yeah, I heard
Yeah, I
that.
heard
Yeah.
that.
What do you
So
guys
I-
make of that?
Well, I asked her about that,
Yeah,
and she
did you?
said, and Janine did a reading on it, and she said it was, you know, she got because she always gets the divine feminine around President Trump, but she did a reading on was POTUS, has he always been male, and you know, it wasn't swapped out, and she's like, no, he's always been masculine, he's always been a male, but he's very in touch with that side, and I guess you'd need to be able to, you know, have everything going on. But I asked Roseanne about it, and she said that she meant that he'd basically kind of taken a lot of the flack like women have done in history, etc. And so that's what she was saying. I don't know if she meant anything more, but that's what she said to me. And that was just.
I wondered what she meant by that. I was like,
Yeah.
I took it as a metaphor, you know, because he has
Yeah.
done more really for women. He would hire women for his administration. He would hire, you know, he was the first to put a Black female general into into our military.
Right.
So
yeah.
he's definitely for women's rights.
Yeah, and he said borders. You know, he says borders all the time. Borders, the wall and all that. And in simple gematria, it's 81. And of course, it's Tiffany and the wall. So that makes sense. But it's also, I am 2, the number 2. So he's saying, I am 2. And similar is 81. Queens, like Lady Diana, Queens. And my wife and Lady Angel. So we've got Lady from Lady Diana, Lady Angel. So all that is borders. 81.
Interesting.
Just yeah.
Yeah. And what else? There was something else to say with that. Oh, also, did you notice as well that Melania was the same height as them?
Oh, I think
No, she would probably be wearing heels, but maybe she's wearing, you know, a wedge as well on the foot, on the toes, maybe. But she was the same height as him, and usually she's tall, but he's 6'3", so I don't think she's 6'3", or she's not. But they were the same height and they were level, so equal, I guess, you know. But then also the dress, the top that she was wearing was black, you know, it was black and white, it was dark to light, and then it was white below.
Right.
White's Florida, 65, 15 for the day that it happened, is 65. Stay, that word from the Tenet film and other Christopher Nolan films. But it was interesting. And there's also a picture of what looks like Juan's ring, taking a photo of them near the front.
Oh, okay. I'll look for
And
that.
he's got his ring, but they've moved the ring around.
What
So
do
they're
you
giving me
mean?
the ring around.
President Kennedy wore the same ring.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he did say to me, he said, there's only one person in the world that's got that ring. And I was like, well, it's on a different hand, because usually Juan's is on his right pinky. And it was on the ring finger on the right hand. And he said, oh, they've moved it. But it was one of those distorted messages I was getting with Juan, because he said he was on a plane and I couldn't hear much. And he's like, I can't see it. And I was like, if you zoom in, you see it. And he said, well, there's only one person with that ring. So, yeah, but he said it was him taking the picture. His hand looks a bit younger as well, I must say. Looked a bit younger.
Maybe it was President Kennedy sounding like Juan, because that's the finger President Kennedy wore it on.
Maybe, but it was him. It was a picture of him taking. So there's this Anna Marins from Brazil. She sent me the picture. So there's a picture. So there's Melania looking out the front, and President Trump's kind of pointing in his direction. When he does that, he kind of acknowledges some people in the crowd on this kind of. So where Eric was, Juan is in maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 people further in, closer to President Trump. But it looks like he's maybe on, I thought it was on the first row, but I think it's maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th row. But he takes the picture. You can't see his hair or hat or anything, you know, but you can see the hand, and the ring is on the ring finger instead of the pinky. And he went, and Juan just said to me, oh, they've moved it. I was like, who's moved it? Is he talking about they CGI'd it? Has someone taken it off? Is it someone else? You know, it was one of those vagaries that, but it was his ring. It was a Juanism. It was a Juanism, but it was his ring. It was his ring, you know. And he's like, there's only one person in the world that's got that ring. And you're saying, Kathy, you know, so.
President Kennedy, yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? It's full of, if we can't figure it out, then
ring finger equals
and God help the rest of them.
Does it come to ring finger comes to 107?
Superman. I'm
Quantum.
Ring finger, love it.
Well, ring is 48. Iowa, Tom as well. Tree.
148. I know that one.
Yeah. And what you're 148. You're a time traveler. You're Donald J. Trump. You're Jetson White. So so finger. So 107 take away 40. So what's finger then? That's 59. Joker.
Oh, nice.
Tom Joker, and he's like, yeah, joking
Trump
around
card. Trump card. Joker's a Trump card.
Joker card. Well, the Joker's 92 numbers. Manhattan reverse, reserve. So there's all kinds of things. But maybe if we're going to go into this, if we've gone into a portal or through a portal, and I think we've been going through a number of them, but if President Trump said it starts now, and maybe all kinds of wacky stuff and amazing stuff's going to happen, and we're just going to experience more and more quantum, you know.
Juan said,
weird.
Juan said on the last show he did with you, not this one you just did with him, but one before that, he said the world, he says, as of now, the world will change every week. That much new.
He did, didn't he? Yeah.
Will be going on, that the world's going to change every week. Let's see. Now here's something that we've not brought up that was a bit what's the right word? Disconcerting to me. While I was watching RSBN, and I've got other versions downloaded, but I haven't had a chance to look them all through, because these are just
RSBN. Is that Right Side Blonde Network?
Yes, it is. So now she's also a magazine publisher and a broadcast company. Good job, Rachel. So there were, but you'd be watching the speech, right? And all of a sudden there'd be like this, boop, like a jump cut. He'd be saying a sentence.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, he's talking about something that wasn't connected to the sentence he just said. It's like he couldn't connect the two.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if anybody had seen anything out on the internet, you know, that was talking about that, the glitches.
I noticed it though, and I listened to it on his own channel,
Yeah.
but it didn't, I mean, it didn't sound as abrupt as quite what you're saying, but it was almost like sentences that were going together that didn't match.
There was still a few bits where it froze and glitched for a couple of times because I watched it again on his channel last night. It was still some.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
not freezes, but just like you say,
Yeah.
it wasn't there was something and it matched, and
Okay.
there was a couple of those for sure. Yeah.
And also the resolution kept going in and out.
Oh, I noticed, you know, he would have had it perfect. You know that, right? He has, if he wanted it to be perfect, it would have been perfect, you know, his broadcast. And I think it was on purpose because from the minute he walked out, the resolution, it was kind of going in and out and it was a little fuzzy. I mean, like when he walked out on stage, I noticed his cheeks were the orangey color. So whichever one that means. And then it went kind of like rounded right here. And then right here, you could see a completely different color. And he was walking, she, whatever, was walking.
Let's call him.
Sideways.
Let's call him he.
He was walking sideways.
Come on, guys.
A good
He's
good
Donald
slow
Trump.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good slow time so that you could see the side of his face. First one side and then the other side. Because he went from one end of the stage to the other so everybody could take a picture, and he walked really slowly. So you could see that there was this difference. That was to me, you know.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, and
and,
he did a we calling him Trumpism now.
Mm.
Well, anyway, he said, you know, where he says the wrong word on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
right.
Instead of overseas, like overseas trading or something, he said over siege, like a war, siege.
Oh, okay.
So that's another war reference. But that's 105, and that's Red October. And I'm pretty sure that I don't know, but that this December is October. You know, from the old calendar, the Julian calendar, which I know everybody's talked about before. But 105 is also a whole bunch of good stuff. Banks closed, all is well. So all kinds of stuff, like bad stuff, you know, a sonic boom, hysteria, all that. But then it's also all is well. And it's giant voice, and that's the military's emergency alert system. It's called Giant Voice.
Okay.
So anyway, I thought that was good. So and it's American Dream. So whenever we hear American Dream, which I was wondering about the other day, that's what this is. 105. All those, you know, Red October. We Are Ready. Kim Clement. All that is 105.
Triumph.
So, yeah.
And also the thing with so what you just said, Jetson, about the jump cut. So jump cut is 104, which is Jerusalem, Starlink, Skynet. Sorry, no, it's not Skynet. Forget that's Starlink. But also, if you do the jump cut, because cut is 44 anon mask, jump is 60 diamond, but the jump cut is 137, which is President JFK. So again, I don't know. Maybe we were seeing Donald. Maybe there was a time where the great man, well, they're both great men, but when JFK may have been spliced in. I don't know. I know that's a lot kind of further out there, but there were these jump cuts, and I noticed them, and you've noticed them, and you brought up the value. So the jump cut is 137, which is also the word 17th, which is also Washington, D.C. It's Juan's phrase, Casino Royale. So the jump cut is Casino Royale 137. It's also Richard Nixon. I've thought maybe there were times JFK was being Richard Nixon. I don't know. I can't prove it. But all of this stuff we can't really prove. It's all kind of just going from, you know, from the consciousness and divine. What's been happening in your world then, Rach, with George? Where are we at with George? How did the first run go?
It went really well.
Woohoo!
We launched on 11/1 of 222.
Oh, yay.
So
Perfect.
great. Yep. It was a great day. We're not doing like they're not labeled by months, but they're kind of coming out monthly. They are coming out monthly, but it's not like the October issue. It's just volume 2, issue 1, volume 2, issue 2 type of thing.
Good.
So we're working on the second issue right now that is supposed to come out at the end of this month, and then we'll be right into the next month. So it's been really fun getting to know the writers and getting to know Gene Ho and work with him in business. I mean, it's
Wow.
interesting. And none of us really know what the heck we were doing. None of us have ever done this before, but we all know and understand the legacy of it and know how important it is to get the truth out. And all of us are elated to be a part of it. So
Congratulations. That's so
Thank you.
fantastic, Rachel.
we're
Now you're
working out
doing
the
it.
kinks and it'll be every month. It'll just get better and better.
Yeah, you bet.
No doubt.
Do you know how many?
Distribution.
Another 137 is Vincent. His full name, Vincent F. But do you know how many downloads you've had on the free copies on the digital, and how many you've sold on the printed yet? Has it been received?
The free copies, I think they're just on the website. So if somebody wanted to read the flip book, they could go on and read it for free. But we've sold quite a few magazines, and it's only the 17th of the month today. So we've had a really good first month. Merchandise is selling. People
So
are really
where do people find the
Right, what's
hard
that,
copy?
George? What's that, George, website?
GeorgeOnline.com.
All right, got it.
Yep, all one word.
GeorgeOnline.com.
Yep. And I think we're gonna start launching. You guys, big things are coming. We'll just
Oh,
put it
thank
that way. We've got more projects in the works too. So
Thank you for that little teaser.
yeah. Yep. I like your shirt too, Jetson. I like that color.
Thank you very much.
You know what George Online comes to, Rach?
No, I've never worked it out, surprisingly.
126.
Ooh, that's 107.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Is one the one behind it? Let's see.
You bet he is, in my opinion, because one is boop, boop.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. George Online. Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good that the next one's coming. Will it be out before Christmas or early January?
The next one's coming out like around Thanksgiving time, a little after Thanksgiving.
Okay. So it is kind of pretty
It's
much
every
monthly,
month.
like you say.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll have another one in December and so on and so forth. So
Oh, great.
Cool.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
So Rachel, how do we get a hard copy? Where is it being sold?
you can order them. You can just
My
order
website.
it from GeorgeOnline.com. There's two different issues. There's a regular issue, just a regular magazine, which these are not like the old magazines. These are like thick, really thick paper. They're like books, not books,
Like
but
Kid
they're
by
like,
the
they're almost
Side of
like
the
a
Road?
paperback.
Like
What's
Kid
that?
by the Side of the Road with those thick pages? Like Kid by
Yeah,
the
kind
Side.
of like that. Kind of like
Okay.
that. So there's a regular version, and those are $21.75, or they're $22 for like the regular version. And then you can get a commemorative issue where there's only 2,400 of them that will be printed, and they are numbered. So, you know, you can, I don't know if you can pick which number you get, but you get one and you know that it's one of the original 2,400 from that month. And every month it'll be 2,400 of each one. And those are 175. So that's like a special cover, and there's some things on it that make it different than the other ones, but they're the commemorative issue.
Wow.
And then, yeah, so it's kind of cool. The first issue, I think I had 3 articles in it.
Woo!
This next issue, you guys, I've been so busy. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right.
So it's good. You'll have
Yeah.
to check it out and see. I got to interview 3 different people. I wrote 3 different articles featuring 3 different people. So
Wow.
it was good. Yeah. Yeah, it's been busy. That's why Tom will be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I have no time to talk right now." I got
I know.
all these
You
things
bring her
to do.
into the fold and then she jumps shit. It's like,
No.
she's come back.
Literally
gonna
like
quit your
every
job?
second of every day.
I don't think you're going to get her back, Tom.
Can you quit your job yet?
No,
No.
no.
Bummer.
Yeah, maybe someday. We'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see.
But it's doing well though. Basically, it's had a good launch and it's going from there. So that's good.
Yes, yes. And all of you watching, if you've bought a copy, thank you, because that means a ton. We've worked so hard for this. So
Well,
it means
definitely.
everything that people are buying it and enjoying it. So
Can't
we're
wait to go out there and see what's available. I didn't know it was already, the first issue was already done.
Yep, it's out. It
All
is
right.
out, and it's what's cool is, like, you know, when John Kennedy Jr. was around with these magazines, they would print a whole bunch and they'd have to try to sell them, you know.
Yeah.
These are nice because it's print on demand, so you don't have that extra, you don't waste anything. You only, if someone orders one, then they print it and they mail it to you. So it's kind of cool that they can
That's good.
change.
Yeah, that's
Printing,
smart.
printing and the art of journalism and everything is changing, and it's changing in so many different ways. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future.
That's good.
Good.
Yeah.
So Jetson, what did you want to talk to us about? Were there any more things about President Trump's address that people wanted to?
I have one more thing I
Yeah, go on.
wanted to say.
Yeah.
Did anybody see at the very end of the speech, there was a guy with white hair and he turned to the side and he had a big black eye. It looked like he had a big black eye. Then you look closer and it looked like George Soros. And I know I'm not the only person who saw it, because I've seen TikToks of it. So other people noticed it too. I know. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know who this
Wow.
person
Send
was.
me that, Rach. I haven't seen it. Send that to me.
Yeah, it's at the very end of his speech. They zoom in and then there's this guy with white hair and he turns to the side and it literally looks like he has a black eye. And then you look closer, it looks, it's crazy. So if I'll try to see if I can find
Yeah.
that particular video.
Oh, that's cool. A little disclosure, you know, it's all subliminal messaging, you know, whether we know it or not, realize it or not, you know, it's in the back of their mind, like, okay, that was odd.
Yes,
even if somebody doesn't
totally.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a few more things I can toss out. One person in the group, Linda, she said, I'm talking about this little group of us who had this meeting about the speech, the Zoom meeting yesterday. See, Tom called during that meeting. And so I actually took the call. And so we've got it recorded that you called during the meeting.
I'm
But
on the
anyway,
cover there.
yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
So she noticed that the word flags, you know, because there were so many flags behind him and everybody was decoding that. Well, she was one of the ones decoding all that. But she just noticed in general that the word flags equals 45. So you've got kind of, you know, I'm still 45 kind of thing. And then this was very interesting. Linda noticed that some of the flags were taller than the other ones, right? So she went and looked at it and says, what if it's Morse code? And the tall ones are the dashes and the short ones are the dots. Well, she went out and put, you know, the order into a Morse code translator, decoder, and came out with an anagram, came out with some letters that when you put an anagram to it, you can get the words "san arrest," meaning without arrest.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. It's like it's not real, right? To me, right?
It's like
what did it come out to? What was the number?
It was just she just did it as an anagram. I haven't gone any further into it. She sent me here's the letters that it came out to, and here's the anagram that I made from those letters. And she used all the letters in the anagram, and it was san arrest, not sans, but san
yeah, but it's
arrest.
close.
Yeah, very close.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like saying no arrest. In other words, don't be.
I also think it's going to look like he dies. Now, are you there? And Janine says no, at least so far. But I've gotten this for months and months, and I even got it from President Trump. You know, let's see, where is it? Well, anyway, I got that it's going to look like he dies. And okay, here we have in Jewish Gematria, he did another thing where he said a different word. So he said press, like the press, and not, it didn't say place. And that's like, well, and simple, it's 77, which is Christ, but it's also the big lie. So, and it says a captive. So and it's Purim. I don't know if I said that right. P-U-R-I-M,
yeah.
Purim.
Yeah.
And Juan did a whole show on that. So he definitely wants us to know about the topic of Purim, but he also wants you decoding this stuff, right? So it also, like I said, it equals the big lie. And if you look at Jewish gematria, which I can't help but do now because they switched Gematrix, so you can't skip to simple anymore. You have to see Jewish also. They did that on Halloween weekend, which was interesting. And so it like started all over again, down to like 0 searches.
Right. Searches,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, so Jewish is
reset the searches.
325, and it's death notice. The end is nigh. But also with time travel, it's a time loop and flash of light, like the great solar flash idea. So there's things about death in there, but it also comes up a lot with, it's all fake, it's a hoax. You know, so no matter what happens, he's going to be okay, no matter how it looks, one way or another.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
One thing as well with the numbers is so I never used Gematrix.
Right.
I think I've looked at it maybe 15 times in 2.5, 3/4 years, and probably not looked at it for well over a year. So that I find the best way to do it, and this is my own opinion, but if you want to get really good at it, in my opinion, is a thought will come to you, an inspiration will come to you, you'll notice something, and then work out the numbers on that. And then you can record it on your phone, on WhatsApp, or just send a message to yourself. You have a digital record. And then you can have it, and you'll remember them. But there's thousands of others I've done that aren't always there, but I can go back to them. And then you'll have your own. The only thing I'd say, Gematrix and the other ones are useful, but they're inputs from other people. And maybe they're sometimes inputs from one side, and maybe they're inputs from another side. And there's sometimes people doing a bit of trickery on there and things. So I would encourage everybody to come off of those and to do your own ones. And if you do your own ones, then source God inspiration is going to send you the ones you need to receive then, and you'll get more personal ones. Whereas if you rely on Gematrix, you've only got the ones that are there, and they can do that. I've even heard that some people will get ones according to where they're from their IP. I can't prove that, but I've heard that. So you might be getting ones that are your IP that it will know and it will change it, and other ones. So I just don't look at them. I just don't use them because I think sometimes they can be a bit misleading. But it's a good starting point. But I just my own experience, numbers can come to you. You feel it first, and then you work it out in your own world. Like Rachel started off with 47, 74. She'd get those all the time, and she realized that 47 was Rachel, and then she'd go from there. So if you can build up your own decalogue, your own catalog, your own library of your own thesaurus of a dictionary of words, I think that's more.
Okay, so that's how you.
Because otherwise they can manipulate it, and you can come one message and then you get the wrong one.
So
but the thing is, with words and numbers, you can get many meanings. But I think it's more powerful if you just sit and think and let things come to you. And I don't even sit and think; they just come to me instantly, and it's the first thing that comes into my head. I work out the number, and then I've got a whole backlog of already reference points. But I just, because otherwise there are people that can do things on the websites, and they'll put them at the top. You get this word at the top, you get all these, and sometimes you might get tossed around.
Well, when I use it, I do feel like I don't pick out just anything. I pick out the ones that I feel, hit me right here.
Well, that's it. If they're hitting, so that's the key. If it's hitting you, then yeah. But maybe as well, because you're so experienced in it, is go with the thoughts and feelings you get first, and then work out the numbers, as opposed to relying on Gematrix. That's my own thoughts. I just don't use it, and I'm pretty good at numbers, So
of course you are.
So I'm just because otherwise you can get a bit confused. But one always says about just doing them more basic because they're more complex. But I did make the point the other day. President Trump uses simple gematria. He uses all of them, but he does use simple gematria. and simple gematria is 148, which is Donald J. Trump. And if you again look at his, which was there on Tuesday, what were the numbers on his podium?
88,
88, 22. 88 is Trump in simple gematria. A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and 22 is MAGA. And you add them together, and that's president. It's 110. So it's very simple, but it's beautiful. It's the most elegant, and it's the most complex. And complex is 88 Trump. So I'm just saying for people, because they get stuck. They're like, what can I do? And then they look at all the geometrics, and that's okay. But you're being fed from other sources, and sometimes it might be white hats, and they might put all the ones you need in it. You might get that resonating feeling, which is great. But what I'm saying is, you can also get the resonating feeling prior to you figuring out what they are. Because you'll get them. I'll get new words all the time, and it will just come in, and I'm like, oh, it's this. And then over time, you just get this whole.
Yeah, I get that
you get this
too.
whole concertina. Yeah,
I do that too. Like I'll wake
so
up
I
in
think
the
you're.
morning.
I think you're at the stage where you can morph more onto your own feel, because you're at that level. I believe, and I think anyone could start at that level. Because like I said, I've only looked at those websites a handful of times over the last 2.5, 2 3/4 years, and I haven't done it probably for well over a year.
Yeah, I wake up in the morning and I'll get words. I'll get
That's
words during the day.
So that's
too.
it. When you get the words,
Oh, yeah.
work out what they are, record them,
Yeah.
and then it will tie into something immediately after. I think that's the best. In my understanding, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I wake up and I'm half awake and I'll be scribbling down or I'll write down from my dream, because I feel like most dreams you're being spoken to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll write down the key things that happened in my dream. Okay, last night I dreamed I had a horse on my lap. Don't ask me why.
Right, doing numbers on horse on my lap.
I haven't done it yet because I was thinking about the interview, but I will do it. I will do horse. I'll do horse at least,
So that's the way for people to do their numbers. They say, how do I understand the meanings? The meanings come to you first. Then you work out what those meanings are in numbers.
Yeah.
And then you'll start to build up a backlog, a catalog of all these numbers, as opposed to, okay, I want to know what 88 is. And then you can find them. But what will happen is the words will come to you first, and then you work out the number. So it's actually the other way around. And I feel that's a more elegant and more real-time version, because then you don't have to, I can even do them in my head. I'm still, I'm not a maths genius. I still have to compute, and I can feel the clogs, moving around. But I do the calculator because it's quick, and I also double check it because sometimes you can mistype. But as I'm walking around, I get it from listening to President Trump. I get it from my thoughts. I get it from real time. I'll get clock things and other stuff, and it's the first thing that comes in. So I would trust your instinct, your initial feeling on the words and impulses that come in straight away. Work out what those are, and then you get more.
Yeah, and you're telling me to use WhatsApp. It's such a help. I can't tell you what a big help it is.
Yeah, it's just a good way to record it digitally, because you'll get thousands of them.
Yeah. And
you record them down, and then you can always type back in on what they are.
I've been writing them on paper.
If they're on paper,
I'm going through a million notebooks.
You'll miss out what they are.
You can't go back and find them.
Yeah.
And now I can have it in my hand,
Or text message, whatever it is. But if you're recording it digitally, it's easier. And I would always suggest people do it in block capitals, then do the equal sign and the number. Or this is an abbreviated way I do it, as I'll do the word in block capitals, brackets, the number, leave the bracket open, and then capital letter, and then lowercase. I'll do the other 3 or 4 words. So I'll do Trump, capital letters, brackets, 88, leave the bracket open, capital P for purple, lowercase for the rest of the word, slash, capital S for Scotland, little letters after that, slash, what else is another 88?
False flags.
Edinburgh, okay, false flags, whatever it is. Mormon is 88, however many you want, and then you close the bracket, and that's how I do it. It works simpler. I find that's just an easy way to do it, but whatever works for you, so it's clear. Even if you just start capitalizing them, equals 88, and then you can have 5 or 6 of them, just purple, Trump, Scotland, complex, Edinburgh, all of them equal 88, Anyway, people have asked that a lot, so I thought that it's worth mentioning, and come off of the relying on the computers, do your own ones.
Jolly
You've
good.
got something there, Jetson. Have you got more on President Trump, or do you want to go into your Jesus stuff?
Yeah, I could move on to my Jesus stuff now.
Okay. Well, Jesus is 74 Gematria.
Yeah,
DeLorean.
it is.
So, did you have any more comments on that, Rach? Because you got your own set of numbers for 74, 47, and you see them in your own world. But any advice for people on how to do their own numbers and how to transition from just seeing them to kind of making it more a part of your life?
Well, the way I use them is kind of like what you do, where you get them and you know, for instance, if I'm driving, the 143 that I got,
Yeah.
I'm driving and I see a car in front of me and it's a 143. There's a
Yeah.
car that's passing me on the right, it's 143, and I look up and I'm at mile marker 143. That to me is like a wow, okay, what is this? And
Yeah.
I have used Gematrix just because I know you hate it, but I do it just because I want to see, I want to get a database.
I don't
of
hate
words.
it. People can use it. I just
Yeah,
think it
I know.
weans them off. I think if
It's
they want
like-
to be more fluid, then
Yes.
they're not reliant upon that, and they can put
Right,
they
right.
can put negative ones in. And if you want to know negative ones, great. I know some of them, but I just don't think it serves us, you know.
Yeah.
And misdirection ones, they can put other ones in that don't mean anything, and they'll if someone else has got that number there, then you might hold on to it. Whereas if you rely on your own intuition and your own thoughts and your own stuff in your own world, like Ingersoll, you might see that and it's like, okay, you'll get it. I just think it's
Yeah.
better to
I don't
live.
write down the
more
ones that don't pertain to me. Like someone could write like yellow
Yeah.
banana. Well, yellow banana doesn't really mean anything to me, so I'm not going to choose that. But something
Yeah.
something might say the Punisher. Okay, so 143 is the Punisher. That's pertinent to what we're learning about. So I put that down just for future reference. So there's a lot of things
Is
that
the Punisher
you just read it
143?
out. What?
Is the Punisher 143?
Yeah, see, that's what I want.
No.
That's what I want, because otherwise you'll never increase your database if you don't at least look at them a little bit. But
Or just pick them up in your eye. But I hear exactly what you're saying. Yeah, as long as people
if
don't
you get
rely
a
on it
number,
completely. Yeah.
if you get a number, how you don't know what that means, so you have to kind of look up just for some things, and it doesn't mean that that's what it means. It means that these are ideas that it could be. So that's kind of how I look at it. In terms
So
of
that's
like
the president as well. 143 is also the Punisher is also president 110. That's what that would be. Okay.
So what's
The
interesting
president.
about 143, the numbers that showed up was 93, the number 93, which is an important number for me because that's my name. That's one of my names.
Yeah.
Came to 93 spelled out. It comes to we love you. You are loved. God's chosen one. In a blink of an eye, by your side. So it came to all of these things that maybe I needed a message of like, hey, we're with you, we're by your side type thing. So that's kind of how I look at it. That's how I took it. And like Tom said, you take what you read, but does it resonate with you? That's the most important thing. And if it resonates, then okay, this must be it. And there's no science to it. And people get mad that there's no like rigid black and white science to this. It's just you can't really explain it, just like you can't ask someone who is a prophet, how do you get these messages? There's no science to it. It just kind of happens, and and it resonates. I'm not a prophet, so I don't know how it works. I could never explain it, but that's how I would imagine that it works.
Good example. Good example.
Yeah.
What did you say? Blink of an eye is what, 93?
In a blink of an eye is 143. 143
okay,
comes to 93 spelled out.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And then what I do, I have my little notebook here. What I do is I write down, so on 143, I saw 5 times I saw 143 because I actually did see it on other license plates. After that instance with those 3, I took the next exit and I saw another 143. So I guess that would have been 4 times. Maybe I missed it. Oh, that was another thing. I came home and I was watching a video and it was a quote that really stood out to me. And the book number of that video was 143. So this was all in the same day within like an hour of each other. So that's how I use it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. You can't go
obviously I like to try to decode stuff in the George magazines and speeches and all of that kind of stuff too. So it's fun for that. But for me personally, that's kind of how I like to use it.
Good.
Yeah. You
Well,
guys-
that segues right into one of the things I prepared for today's meeting,
Mhm.
talking about receiving messages, talking about resonating with those messages. And I just wanted to, since Tom invited me to be on, I prepared, like 4 pages of stuff. I don't have to use it all, but I just wanted to toss out there that the majority of the intel that I receive comes to me as a story. And then it's up to me to research the story with the available tools and find confirmations for it and basically prove it to myself before presenting it on my channel. And if I don't find any confirmations, I don't present it on my channel. And also the stories that I get, they determine the topics that I pursue in the same way that resonating with something would determine that. So that if something isn't related to a story, then it's a topic I don't even go. There's too much to do, in what I've got to look at now. I don't want to be going down rabbit holes I don't need to go down. So it's a very effective way. I've been given this kind of system, it keeps me out of rabbit holes.
So
Yeah,
how are
there's a
you
lot of
given the
them.
story? Oh, sorry.
Do what?
How are you given the story? You just hear the story, you're thinking and you get a story?
Well, it's hard to, I personally think it's coming out of my DNA. It's not like
Ooh.
I hear a voice saying, here's a story, my son. Although I have received messages like that, not a story, but messages, like that. Like I received a message not too long ago that said, yay, my son, go into the crystal something. I can't remember what crystal core, it's like, oh, sounds interesting. But anyway, your question was, do I hear it? I think it's coming. I feel like it's just kind of coming out from inside of me somewhere. I'll get the story and it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like you just go, oh, it's kind of like when you hear something for the first time, but yet when you hear it for that first time, you go, oh, I already knew that somehow. Right.
Yeah.
So I'll get the story and then I'll start researching it and, to prove the story. But then later, like what happened with the rapture, lead up to the rapture event series, that was all a story that was given to me way back when I started my channel. It was given to me in these big chunks of all these series that I was making on my channel. And then all of a sudden in July, I started getting all these like tie-up details that hadn't been there before. And they were literally coming to me like in my head while I was driving, and I was recording them as I was going. So I had like a recorder full of information that it took days to go through and transcribe and, and then to look through all that. But it ended up tying that whole rapture thing together as this 936 that, became that whole series and the 5 updates that preceded it, or not preceded it, but that followed it. But anyway, since then, guys, I've put out a two-part kind of I'll call it an explanation, for lack of a better word, of that whole lead up and what it was about. And 2 big booms came out of those 2 videos. And I'd like to share those 2 booms if I could.
Yes.
All right. So I got these when making the video called the 936 Game Out and the New Information. And in part 2, there are 2 booms that I was absolutely not expecting. But what I got from as I was sorting through what happened on 936 was that the first boom was that the Q drops. Besides, the whole thing was a game out for my channel was being used. But let me just go say that the Q drops are a military-led training operation. It's a training operation.
Training, really?
And
That's
when
what
I asked,
got?
when I asked who was being trained and for what, that's when the second boom came.
Hmm.
Though everyone that was following the Q movement, they were being trained for the J6 DC event.
Oh,
Because that also, just like the 936 rapture date that I was told to promote, that was a game out for how people would react to that information. The J6 DC event was a game out that took full advantage of the enemy's plan to push America into either a civil war or into a real attack or a coup against our government or against our parent government. And what that information did that they got from that J6 game out, our military intelligence, was it proved that the Q Truth movement was a complete success, because those people there at the J6 event it wasn't possible to trick them into joining into this manufactured violence that they were trying to, whip up out there. And so that was very valuable information that was needed for what's about to happen now with this 11.7 law of war procedures going into effect, where the military will basically be, well, I don't want to say that if you're going on YouTube, but if I have a video on my Rumble called 11.7 law of war procedures, it's fairly, I've updated it, reposted it lately, so it's up toward the top of the list. And that 11.7, what's in those procedures will give you a glimpse of what the country would look like during this period. And like I was telling Tom before this, it's everything from, you could say martial law with military in the street, but it could also just mean something like, or not just, but it could also mean, something as far as controlling the media, which, of course, we view that as bad, but there are times when it's necessary in order to keep the nation stable so that the elected person can be properly reinstalled. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. 11.7 is all about that. I'm sorry. Well, the whole law of war procedures is about getting the right person back in.
Thank you.
In a totally by the book way, to where our military doesn't end up in front of a tribunal, because they have to do everything by the book.
That's funny. You keep saying by the book, because that's how I learned Gematria. There was a YouTube channel called By the Book.
Cool.
And it was not monetized or anything. I think it was just a white hat kind of channel. It's still around. I think it's on Rumble.
All right.
That's how I learned.
How did so you just watched those YouTube videos, Kathy? Like that,
Yeah.
Did you stumble across a video and that's how you learned what the numbers were? And
somebody on back in the Twitter days, so I followed somebody who mentioned it. And he just, and he was doing Gematria and I didn't understand it. And he mentioned this channel. So I went there, and what they would do is they'd take President Trump tweets and they put them up, and it would all be very slow, and they would show you, and it was a lot, there would be words, but a lot of it was phrases. And they'd show the whole tweet, and then the next screen, they'd show the one they're going to work on in red. So it was very well done. It wasn't just the hokey kind of thing. And it had music. It always had music. And then it went on. And then they showed how it would mean something. And I was like, oh, that's where they're getting it from. It would mean something. The phrase would mean something. And then they would take all the capitals from his tweet, and then they would show you what the value was, and everything would be in red. I mean, it was really fascinating. And they had a lot about John F. Kennedy Jr. in there. you know, and how it related back to him.
Mhm.
And they had drawings by Strider Raven, and it was like pencil drawings. I think it was all drawings by John, but you know, I don't know really. But they would, some of the things weren't just about Gematria. They would show drawings, you know, like Mount Rushmore and things like that. Just done kind of in a I don't mean childish way, but not like a super professional way.
Mhm.
Anyway, enough about that. Jetson's talking, so I'm sorry.
You pass the picture again.
Yeah. Sorry, Jetson.
Oh, no problem. I wrote it down. I might check it out.
Yeah, it's called they added Strider and Strider Raven when they had to go to Rumble. They got deleted. So it's by the book, and Strider Raven, just like the character from Lord of the Rings, Strider Raven.
All right.
Go on, buddy.
All right. So now let's get to the Jesus stuff. Okay.
Bring it on.
All right. So on my channel, we've been doing a SWAT training class. We've been doing it now for 16 weeks, and we'll be doing it for 21 weeks. But this class is about, it's SWAT stands for Spiritual Warfare Training. No, Spiritual Warfare Apostolic Training. And what's happening with that is, as we get deeper and deeper into it, spiritual warfare, and you know, as we know, we are in a battle between good and evil. And what I discovered while doing this research is something that it's going to shift my entire channel over to, and that is, I discovered a secret. I discovered the biggest crime ever perpetrated against humanity, and that was the hiding of Jesus's true intention for his church, for his disciples.
Mm.
What was the intention?
Well, that's what this new series focuses on, Tom. And it's,
Can you tell us the answer?
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this about it.
Yes.
I only have so many.
Here's the thing,
hours.
because sharing this lost information is similar to diffusing a bomb, because it must be done with extreme patience and in a very precise order, because of all the lies stacked upon lies, stacked upon lies. I feel like Pee Wee Herman. Okay. This is,
Oh no. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Forgot about him.
Oh my gosh.
okay. So in other words, you know, it's like, you can't just say, okay, here's what his true intention was, because there's so much rubbish in people's heads. In other words, you've got to find that one idea. So I'm doing it like a comic strip form, and I'm only releasing, each comic strip is one idea. That's how I'm releasing this, one idea at a time. And so these lies upon lies, this is what an enemy stronghold is made of. So so it must be unpacked as slowly and tediously as one diffuses a bomb, if you want to get the message out properly, and not, you know, like have people go, oh, this is too much, I can't handle it, kind of thing, and just go away. So the new series is called Two Bikes at the Beach.
Really?
Yeah. It's basically my attempt to untangle the literal matrix of lies around the topic of how God's kingdom was intended to be administered here on earth. And see, what we know is it's going to step on some toes, but the way the church is right now, it doesn't work, guys. It doesn't work. So if, you know, people who've been brought back to God by the Q movement, there's a lot of them trying to get back into churches and you know, and make that work. The church doesn't work the way it is, because in fact, at the very beginning, there was one word that was used to translate from what Jesus said. Jesus said ecclesia. He said, upon this rock, I will build my ecclesia. And we've been mistold what that word means. And it's got this whole system of church going on It's all based on lies. So the thing is, the church doesn't even know its true purpose. So without purpose, you can't have a vision. And the Bible says, without a vision, the people perish.
What does ecclesia mean that we have wrong?
Well, I cover that in the very first episode. And the most close English translation to ecclesia is ruling governmental council. You are the people who make the rules here. You're at the top of the rule making channels. And what will happen when people get this idea, it's going to flip their way of looking at being part of God's kingdom, because they're going to be able to be at the top looking down where everybody is right now. They're right in the middle of it. They're going, oh my gosh, oh, look at that. Oh, that's horrible. But see, it's overwhelming because everywhere you look, it's everywhere. And it gets so overwhelming that you feel like, what could I do? You know, I'm just one person. Well, we're going to show how you can make two-man teams, take two-man teams using Zoom and literally flip this system to how God wanted his church, what he wanted them to be doing here, what their real purpose is so that they can get their vision.
It sounds good.
When does
Wow.
that start?
It's already started. I've got 2 strips out. I'm calling them comic strips. I've got 2 strips out now. They're both on YouTube and Rumble.
Nice.
Very good.
It's a lot of work making videos and doing research. I think a lot of people don't realize how much effort goes into making even just a regular video where you're talking, but let alone when you're researching and editing and all those things. It's tedious, especially the way you do it, Jetson. It's very
Thank you.
tedious.
Well, I do enjoy it, but you're right. This 2 Bites at the Beach has been one of the hardest series I've ever tried to make, to be honest. It really is like defusing a bomb. That's what it feels like.
So I have to ask this question because you always have a guitar in your background. So do you play?
I do.
Okay.
Do you remember he played to us, Rach?
I don't know if I was on that one. I think you told me about it, but I don't
You
think
were, unless it was at your house and maybe you'd had to go and do mum duties. I'm not sure, but
Oh,
he
maybe.
played, said, oh, little in the morning, and
Yeah, that's what it sounded like. That was perfect. Perfect, Paul.
I love it.
I did just a little bit of if I had I went to the second verse. If I had a bell, I'd ring it in the morning from that song.
Mhm.
If I had a hammer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just did a little bit of that.
Well, you can't see it, but there's a Tiffany blue piano right in front of me too in my office.
Woo! Do you
It's just
play?
right there.
Do you
What was
play?
that?
Do you play?
I'm
Rachel?
learning. Yeah, I'm learning. I've posted a couple videos on my YouTube
like
of me
to play.
playing some piano.
No way. I don't think I've seen those.
Yeah.
It's not ringing a bell.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. Rachel
Okay.
play piano.
Oh, listen to what 2 Bikes at the Beach is. I know. I'm sorry.
2 Bites at the Beach. Here
2
we go.
Bikes at the Beach. Okay. 196. Jesus Christ lies. Like the lies said about him. Like,
Got it. Got it.
Wow.
Wow.
Woo! Yeah. Good one. Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah. Okay, I'll put it down.
188 is Jesus of Nazareth, President Kennedy. 188, show me the money. Close Encounters. So Jetson, I've got this for you. Well, for everyone. But so talking of I'm going to point this out as well because we've got this beautiful picture. So Kathy's provided this for some reason. So I think we should use it. So do you know what your piltrim is? Do you know what your piltrim is?
Say it again.
Piltrim. Do you know what your piltrim is?
Spell
Piltrim
it.
is this. You know, between your nose and your mouth, you've got those kind of 2 curves, 2 lines.
That is.
That's your
Alright.
piltrim. Yeah, that's your piltrim.
All right.
Now, I've noticed this on the Donald Trump that we were watching at Mar-a-Lago the other day. His piltrim, I think, is a bit longer. It's a bit more like JFK's as opposed to real Donald Trump. Anyway, you know, The Simpsons, they elongate the Piltram. So the one that comes down the escalators is the one that we saw then, I believe. But real Donald Trump, the one that would speak at the outside the aircraft when he talked to the press, that's real Donald Trump. That's different. The eyes smile downwards. But the Piltram is also, I think, a little similar to JFK's Piltram. And like I said, the eyes are slightly, they're straight, but they're just slightly off. And a lot of people have that. But have you heard of this time travel series, Jetson, called 11/22/63?
No, I have not. I
Oh.
like that date. Well, I don't like it. You know what I mean? I'm very familiar with that date.
Yeah. So for a long time, I've been going on about JFK, and I believe that what we saw then, what the world saw, was not the case. And even what we see maybe in the movement is not maybe fully the case. I think that he exited somehow through space, but Jetson thinks different. So
Well,
I'm just
it's okay.
So
I have videos on that if you
well,
want to
you can
see.
share them. But anyway,
Yeah.
so this is
You can't
I'm not
see.
trying to convince him. But the thing of what's that?
Showing him a heart. You
Oh,
love
okay,
him.
all right. Well, he knows that. But
Yeah,
in
yeah.
terms of, so I've been saying for a while that was done through time travel, through Space Force, through divine intervention, a change. But this TV show, so this brings back to Rachel. So Rachel's neighbor Tony, I spent some time with them, and he introduced me to this show, and it's on Hulu. And I've watched the first 4 episodes when I was in Kauai with Cammy. I watched the 4. There's about 8, I think, so I need to watch the other 4. But this show came out in 2016. It did, 2016. It came out on my birthday, February 15th, 2016. 2016, you just time jump. You just jumped then, Jetson. You just did a boom. You just went boom. Like there was a splice. You just moved. And 2016 was a year when all these people died. You know, David Bowie, Prince, Carrie Fisher. I saw her the year before. Leicester City won the Premier League. There was lots of weird things that happened in 2016. It seemed like a portal that we were going through for future events. Anyway, it came out on my birthday, this show on Hulu. But 11/22/63 is all in regards to referencing the possibility of time travel changing the events of JFK. And it's with an actor called James Franco. And he got a lot of flack earlier, a few years ago, about, you know, the stuff in Hollywood. I met him on an escalator of all places,
Wow.
briefly for albeit 3 or 4 seconds. And I have a feeling that maybe he's actually white hat. I don't know, but I think he might be because he was chosen for this mini-series. It doesn't seem super well known, but it was created a while ago. But basically, this guy goes back in time and is able to go and change the events of JFK. So they're basically rescuing changing the events of JFK, preventing the assassination through time travel, which is what I've been talking about for the best part of a year and a half. But I was only introduced to this show through Tony, who was Rachel's neighbor in Iowa. But if you look at the numbers on some of this, so I've just done this while we've been talking, but so it's 11/22/63. It's based on a Stephen King novel, but then put into a TV show, a mini series. But if you do the numbers on this, so 11 is 91, which is POTUS. 22 is 165, which is Resurrection. And then 63 is 153, which is a Black Swan event. It's also Galactic Federation. I know people use different terminology in the space community. I might be mislabeling it, but Galactic Federation, a Black Swan event is 153. But if you add all those together, that comes to 409. And 409 comes to a few things. One of them is 233, which is John Fitzgerald Kennedy, plus 176. 176 is Back to the Future.
Wow.
So they're doing a version of this in this TV show of Back to the Future to John Fitzgerald Kennedy. So 233 plus 176. So John Fitzgerald Kennedy plus Back to the Future comes to 409, which comes to 11/22/63. Another way to look at it is if you do 243 243 is John F. Kennedy Eternal Flame, and the remaining value is 166. 166 comes to the White House, but it also comes to the Scooby-Doo ending. And the Scooby-Doo ending is about the revealing of someone under a mask, and that could be both ways. That could also be black hats, but it also could be white hats. And I've known that number for a long time, but I believe there will be some kind of Scooby-Doo ending. And another reason for that is, do you remember the film Wayne's World?
The film? Oh, right. It's all righty.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But it's Wayne's World. And I saw it, I believe, when I was 17, and I fell in love with the movie. And it opens with Bohemian Rhapsody with Queen. You got the whole thing with Freddie Mercury. I've actually also met the guy that played him, Rami Malek, although they say Rami's not necessarily the best, but I don't know. But I saw him in lockdown in Regent's Park, which is that kind of magical part where I bump into lots of folk. That's probably a portal. But going back to Wayne's World, so you've got this comparison. So we were talking about it just recently. So President Trump has referred to himself as Batman before. He said, I'm the Batman, and he's come out with a bat, and he's also talked to, I think, one of his grandkids, and they're like, are you Batman? He said, yeah, I'm Batman. His tower, Trump Tower, was physically used in the third of the Dark Knight trilogy, Dark Knight Rises, as Wayne Tower. And so you've got Wayne Tower, you've got Trump Tower, but you've also got Wayne's World, you've got Trump World. And I was saying ages ago when I first did my shows with Charlie, I was like, well, Trump is Batman, but he's also Bruce Wayne, but also JFK's Bruce Wayne, but JFK Jr. Bruce Wayne, I should say. But you've got Trump Tower, Wayne's Tower, that's Batman, but then you've got Wayne's World, but also Trump World. And I was saying and making the point that we're in Trump's world, and I think he's illustrated that through having his tower in the Batman film. But then in Batman, you've got the W, the Wayne W, that takes you back to early origins of 126. But W. Wayne's Tower, but also you've got Trump Tower, and you've got Wayne's World, and you've got Trump World. So but at the end of the Wayne's World film, they do a Scooby-Doo ending, i.e. they unmask the villain. So there's someone purporting to be someone else, and then they unravel, and then they show that it's not. And so this whole thing with masks, I think there's going to be a lot more to do with masks. They put everyone in the world into masks, but some escaped that and they didn't comply. But then Juan said it just, I think within the last 2 months, I think it might have been on the show you were on, Rachel, and he talked about Zuckerberg being at least played by 16 different people. So that would be actors, that would be people with masks. I don't know if there's CGI involved. And I said to him, well, that means there's good people in, playing characters and being masked. And he just went, yep. And when you get a yep from him, that means you've hit it on the point, and then you go on to the next one. So you might get a long explanation, but when he goes, yep, that's when one acknowledges what you said, and then you move on to the next piece. So good and bad actors have been playing these characters, and there will be masks. I think there will be some unmasking. But it's interesting, this 11/22/63 does come to John F. Kennedy Eternal Flame, the Scooby-Doo ending, and also the White House. And the other thing, you might know this, so I think I'm correct, but the Winter White House, that's 222, that's Mar-a-Lago. But who's the one that gave it the name Winter White House? I think that's got something to do with the Kennedys, hasn't it?
It could, yeah.
I think it has. I need to research again, but I think from memory, something to do with it. I don't think the Trumps kind of automatically just called it the Winter White House, because he's only been in office for 4 years, well, 6 years now. But he has made reference to being in office for decades and decades. But I thought it had something to do with the Kennedys, because I think they used to vacation down there as well, in that Mar-a-Lago, the Palm Beach area. Do you know anything about that, Rach?
This is a Georgism, but in the Trump issue of George, which is the 47th issue of George from the 90s, the reporter clearly doesn't, the tone is like derogatory, or he's like making Trump sound like he's, pompous, whatever. But there's a big like subheading inside of the article, and it says, "Who needs the White House when you have Mar-a-Lago?" 1,000.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
So I don't know if they were just
Interesting.
a coincidence, or if they were like, I don't know. Some of these things are not, by the way, I'm convinced some of these things are not man-made coincidences where they're like put in there. There's no they have to, there has to be like a divine time, a divine something influence on a lot of this stuff. And it's just, the longer you research this stuff, the more you realize how profound and how like there's no other explanation for all
It's
this.
higher dimensional. It's
It
higher
is.
dimensional, isn't it? So higher dimensional, I believe Space Force is part of that. That's almost like a bridge that connects us to here to there. And Space Force is 91, it's POTUS, it's 11, it's future, it's liberty, it's the Father, it's all those things. But I realized that, like you just said, when I was first doing the numbers early on in 2020, President Trump's team would do stuff on certain timestamps, and they would tie into stuff I'd just done, and they'd tie into videos that already existed, and I'd already done the numbers on. I'm like, you can't time that stuff. You can't do that because there's too much of a human error. And it's like, well, and then President Trump spoke in, I don't know, 2 or 3 rallies ago about fourth dimensional chess. So he's saying it's fourth dimension. And the rally that you and me were at when we met Eric Trump, do you remember a couple of things that he said? He talked about Merry Christmas, but Eric said when he gave his speech, he told everyone, he said Space Force is the next dimension. He said it on stage.
Wow.
He said it on stage, and probably most people just like, I mean, I didn't speak to everyone, so maybe some did pick up on it, but he just said it, just, like water off a duck's back, just said Space Force is the next dimension. And then his dad, a few weeks later, is talking openly and repeating himself about fourth dimensional chess, i.e. another dimension above this 3D that we're in. And if you're a dimension above, then you're going to have the full ability to change things divinely, like you said, Rachel, to do these things. We've seen it in Transformers. I wouldn't even be surprised if we're walking along and number plates could change if they need to, You've seen Transformers can change form, that they're showing us what's possible. And so if you need to see a certain message at some point, Kathy, you might see it, you get a thought, or someone, a sign might go past, and it might be your name or something, but they can, I'm open to anything that's possible. And if you're talking about other dimensions, as far as I understand in my basic knowledge of dimensions, then that I would assume it's superior to everything in this dimension. And if you're going to fifth, and that's another multiple, that's another exponential multiple above. So the possibilities are endless, and they can do it instantly for all of us individually, as and when we need to do it.
Remember, didn't they always, in Q, there was like 5D, and everybody thought it was avalanche. Do you remember that?
I don't remember the avalanche part. But...
Well, 5D, if that's the number of the highest avalanche.
Okay,
that's possible.
like an earthquake, like a Richter scale for avalanches. Okay.
But 5D could be fifth dimension.
Yeah, could be. And talking of earthquakes, earthquake is 107, which is Trump's, but it's military, but it's quantum as well. And it's also atonement. So everyone, in terms of Christianity and other beliefs in God and divinity, and how do you rectify this? I believe it's rectified through atonement, but it's through quantum. And I think that's why it's sometimes kind of confusing and surprising, but it's still elegant and we feel calm with it. But trying to predict it, it's almost like it just moves. It's like, well, it could be this as well, and it could be any number of outcomes and any number of possibilities. I think that's what they're doing. Like Mark Atwood says, we're kind of in spiritual quarantine. We're going through this process of learning things like higher dimensional stuff, quantum things, and it's like, okay, quantum things almost sounds clunky the way I'm putting it, because I don't probably have the vernacular just to describe it, but it is. I think 107 is quantum, 107 is atonement, 107 Superman, it's Aquarius, it's military, it's currency, it's 20 because we went through 2020. It's all those things,
Well, that's beautiful. I like that.
I think the way you're describing it, Tom, where you can start like not manipulating, but you can kind of start putting things in place is when you just like can trust completely, when you just trust that it's always working out in your favor, even if it looks like it's not your favor. You know that if the door just closed, that it actually is a blessing, like that's a protection rather than a So I think, and a lot of people don't ever get to that point where they just completely and 100% trust, no matter what that means that they're going to have to go through or experience. So I think
some things you're spared, aren't you, for your benefit,
What was that?
Some things you're spared, some things that you're spared for your benefit,
Yes. Yeah.
There was a movie out, and I don't know what the name of it is, but the premise was, because I only saw the ad one time. I think it was like a family movie, just an everyday nice, you know, there were kids in the movie and it seemed like a really nice thing. And I wanted to watch it. I went back to look for the clips or anything. I couldn't find it. But the movie clip was, there's a mom and a dad and probably 3 little kids around the table. And he was talking about magnets on a refrigerator. And he said, so what do you think this magnet does? And the littlest one said, I don't know, it holds up a note, you know? And he says, no, he's talking about magnetism and how it works. Then he said, all you have to do is think about things and it will be drawn to you. I mean, he didn't say it exactly like that, but that's the idea. He's telling the kids that. And then he said, you just think about what you want and basically it will happen. That was the idea. So the littlest one says, I wish I had a pepperoni pizza like that. And then the doorbell rings and there's a pepperoni pizza and then the clip ends. And to me, that was like a white hat idea put out there just for us to see something about magnetism and something about, drawing things to you and that we all can do it. I mean, if she could do it, right? I think they're telling us we can do it.
Yeah. I think we're all like, I was researching, what is it that Michael Jaco does?
Remote viewing.
I was
165.
Yes. So I was doing research on remote viewing because the whole subject just fascinated me. It's a concept that it's almost like freaky to know that people can do that people can actually put themselves in another time and put themselves in or put their consciousness in like a box and look at a code. You know what I mean? Like that's creepy to think about.
What's in the box?
What's in the box? What's the code?
In the box.
What was interesting about that whole concept is that we are all connected. Like the thoughts that come out of my mind go out into the universe and this atom touches this atom touches this atom, all the way to where you are, Jetson, all the way to where you guys are. All of those atoms touch each other, so therefore we're all connected. And that's how it works.
Quantum entanglement.
Wow.
Yes.
Good touch, bad touch.
Yeah. So I think they think this is woo-woo stuff, but it actually is not. It's actually fascinating. And if I had more time in the day, I would be reading all about that because it's just Jetson, this is right up your alley, but that's to know we're all connected that way and that there's like a scientific explanation for it as to how it works is cool.
You can find some information from Nassim Haramein about that quantum entanglement if you want to. Okay.
I will.
All right.
When you said trust in God, so I did the numbers on that. So trust is 98, mission 8 if you spell it out, 88, but 8 is 98 as well. Independence, but trust in God. So in is 23, I am, and God is 26, which is game, which is card, which is flag. The add them together is 147, and that's one you've had that's come out quite a bit, right? 147, and it's Times Square as well, 147. It's
I'm
the
gonna look up my
Times Square.
the
I know
frequency.
somebody who's been on Times Square billboard.
Yeah,
I know.
exactly.
147 has come to me a lot because there's like when you look at
That's trust in God, yeah.
when you look at all these are all things that I've written down. And yeah, trust in God. I'm sure I have that written down somewhere. But 888 spelled out is 147.
Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? 8. That's another. Yeah, good. That's another way to do it.
I've
The
got
DNA
that.
of Jesus is 147.
Is it? The
Yeah.
DNA of Jesus,
Yep.
and that's where the thoughts come, as Jetson was saying. I'd never heard that. I don't think. I think that's really cool.
Yeah. There's a
So
lot of good ones
your
for that.
quality of thoughts will improve as your DNA gets upgraded.
God inside you is 147. Our DNA has codes is 147. Yeah, there's a lot of good ones for that.
Yeah, Juan talked a long time ago about your DNA sings to you.
Yeah.
Sings?
He said-
things. Yeah.
Well, he said each person's DNA is like a bunch of tuning forks.
That's
Billions of
it.
billions
Yep.
of
Tuning forks. Yep.
And each person has their own specific tone, sound.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that our junk DNA is not junk at all.
Oh, absolutely.
And
not.
I'm sure at this point, some of our DNA is working much better. Don't you think? I don't think we have to wait for the flash. I think it's already a little better, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I don't think.
I think it's definitely upgrade. Yeah, it's improved a bit. It has. I don't know how far on the spectrum, but it's definitely.
Yeah, it feels like it.
Yeah, it's gone up. Bring on more for sure, but grateful for where it's got to.
Yeah,
Mhm.
when you consider what 2 years ago, November of 2020, just the overall vibe of the world then versus the way it is now, there's a huge shift. There's already been a big difference with the way people are viewing. I think just more people are waking up to the truth that it's easier to talk about stuff and not be so fearful, and then that helps us all, the negativity to leave. So it's all just kind of plays into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Well, it's been good fun, everyone.
Yes.
Any concluding remarks or questions, statements, etc., 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 etc.? I sound like Willy Wonka.
WW.
WW.
I've got I just want to let everyone know that the audiobook project for Kid by the Side of the Road, with professional voice talents recording it in a professional setting. The very first chapter is now out. I released it on my Rumble only due to content, but I released it in 15-minute increments. So there's 6 parts to chapter 1, 6 15-minute videos. And then yesterday I put all those 6 videos together into one. So now I've got all of chapter 1 in one like hour and a half long video. So if anyone, wants to hear chapter 1 audiobook professionally recorded, then go out and check my Rumble channel. And then chapter 2 will be next in 15 minutes.
How many chapters are there, Jetson?
There are 4, but we're only doing the first 3. That 4th chapter is Juan's dream, 107 How to Dream, about a certain person swinging in a church on a
Remember.
Please.
right. So
So that one, the 4th won't be done, no?
the 4th one will not be done, but because it's not about America's history.
Okay.
And but the first 3 are basically, it's the true history of America that you'll not find anywhere. It's never even been available anywhere else. This is it, the true history of America, or certain parts of it.
He's
Have
also
you not
got
read
4th
your book
edition
yet,
coming
Tom?
out.
What
Say
about-
again, right?
I said, have you not read your book yet, Tom?
I got part of the way through when I was on the plane, but it's back home. So the last time I read it was last year. So I'd
Yeah.
read it on the airplane.
Yeah.
So I didn't finish it. I haven't finished it yet. But Juan did say as well, so he's got the Storm edition coming out, but he's working on the 4th edition, which he reckons will be out in March time. So I don't know what else is going to be in that, or if it will be a change of the photograph at the back, or if there'll be some other.
Are we supposed
Pieces.
to pre-order? I heard him mention that. How do you just go online and
I
pre-order?
can't remember what he said now. You can go. Yeah, I think in the next few months we'll find out. But he's talking about it in March time. But you go to his website and all the stuff's there. But if it becomes available, then I think he said he's still working on it. So I don't think.
Right.
I don't know.
So you
So you
still
reckon
like
in March
final edits before.
Yeah,
they
I reckon March
push it out.
time. But it's all through his 107 Daily.
Mhm.
That's where you get the stuff.
Yeah.
So, all righty. Well,
Thank you.
that was fun. That was
Yes, thank you,
informative.
Tom.
Nice meeting you, Jetson.
Nice meeting you, Kathy.
Yeah.
And good
Thanks.
seeing you again, Rachel.
Good
Yeah,
to see
thank you,
guys,
Rachel.
all of you. Yes. Hope you're staying warm. I'm like freezing. It's really windy and snowy and
Oh,
not
it's not.
pleasant here.
You
I
got
have a-
snow in Iowa?
Oh yeah, I put the Christmas decorations out
If
and
it's
then the weather got
Yay!
confused.
Dave, it is still amazing. I'm still here in America. I'm going in a couple of days' time, but I
Oh,
was
yeah.
there at yours in the summer, at the end
Yeah.
of August, and then into the first half of September, and then in the pool, and it was hot and everything.
Yeah,
that?
it's freezing now. You definitely would not want to swim. It's like Christmas. Now watch when Christmas rolls around, it'll be 55 degrees.
Yeah, it'd be a chilly willy in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's yeah, I'll wait till the summer again to come back. I don't know what to do now. All right, well, say hi to everyone back home, to the family, and to Tony and the family. And Jetson, always a pleasure, buddy. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
And I'll see you again in a few minutes, Kathy. So, yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
All right.
Yeah,
See
thank
everyone.
you.
Oh,
See you.
where can everyone find you? So
Oh,
I'll
wait.
put the link. So there's Jetson's up. What I'll do is I'll put Jetson's YouTube up. I'll put WriteSideBlonde YouTube up. I'll put MrsHandyRU YouTube up, and Site Club and the Tom Numbers Show. I'll put those up as well. But then we're on Rumble and Telegram, and Twitter and Truth Social. And have you got a Truth Social yet, Jetson?
I am, but I'm not really posting much out there because the threads all break up, and I don't like that. It's like once you put a post out there that you're responding to somebody's thread, your post is just out there all by itself, and you have to, click expand this. I don't know. I'm not crazy about the format they have out there yet.
Well,
It's kind of confusing when you're just starting out.
Yeah.
It is, but
I don't post anything out there really. I just people follow me out there, but I'm not posting anything. I don't know why they're
well,
following me.
one thing to remember. So I think it will. I like it, but I just post stuff out. I'm not on there all the time, but I put the videos up. But one thing to remember is Truth Social is 146, which is the trumpet, and it's also there's also the universe. It's also Ivanka Trump. It's also Delmonico Plaza. I've been saying Del Vecchio for all this time, but it was Delmonico. I went there last week. That's where I met Ivanka. And then 146 is also New Jerusalem, which is some will say that's the mothership, and mothership is 164. Thomas Apostle, RightSideBlonde, Mark the Apostle for Atwood, and Jack Edward Aiken Kid. So anyway, 164 is a good number. But 146, the 146 New Jerusalem, they also call that the dove. So dove is 46. 46 is best. 46 is girl. 46 is Marie. And one is 46, yeah. And dove. So the dove is 79, which is mother, which is nature, Lemuria, super, wonder, atomic gold is 79. You can continue. William for middle name of Baron. So.
Oh, is that Baron's middle name? I didn't
What's
know
that?
William is Baron's middle name.
So Baron William Trump is 235, which is President John Kennedy, which is time travel magic power is 235, and Baron Trump had the book series named after him.
Yeah,
Baron spelled different in that one with just one R, because Baron is 68, which is Wayne, which is Mar-a-Lago, which is Stock, which is Market. You got Bruce Wayne, as I said earlier, but then Baron, the way they do it in the books, is 50, which is Donald, which is America, which is Fight, which is Eileen, which is Paul, which is Lion. So the lion, Donald's the lion, Aslan gets resurrected. So maybe what Kathy's saying, but hopefully not, but who knows? But anyway, whatever happens, he'll come back, because 198 is the resurrection, which is calm before the storm, which is Statue of Liberty, which is remote viewing magic, 198. President Trump, 198. President J. Kennedy, 198. Anyway, we could continue. We sure could. We could. So everyone, anyway, the point is, I'll put the links up. Everyone will can go and follow everyone's respective channels, and also make sure you're still double subscribed, because sometimes we just have to double check that, you know, because it's, you know, we dance, we have to dance with it. Anyway, without further ado, I'm just over and out. So thanks, Kathy, thanks, Rach,
Bye, guys.
and thanks,
Thank you.
Jetson
Bye, guys.
148. We'll
Bye-bye.
see you soon. All right,
Okay.
take care. Bye.
Major Tom.
Thank you, Major Jetson.
I'm a first lieutenant, but all right.
All right, First Lieutenant, there you go.
Ta.
Ta.